for years I had this voice in the back of my head that would kind of come in, usually while I was meditating or journaling, just thinking about life, and it would kind of say, you should write. You should speak. And it wasn't really coming from my head. It wasn't a thought that I generated. It was more of a suggestion from somewhere deeper in my soul. And I don't know, have you ever had that happen? Where something just, you have this feeling, there's just something that tells you you should do this. Do you listen to that voice? Or do you blow it off? Or do you kind of do both? Because I kind of did both. First of all, I listened and I told myself, I'd love to write and speak on self-help and spiritual issues, but then I'd blow it off. I'd be like, this would be awesome, but I'm not going to do that. So this other part of me would chime in and say, yes, well, that would be fantastic. But you don't have time for that. You've got real work to do. Get your head out of the clouds, Mr. Writing and Speaking. Right. You can't make any money doing that. And who would want to listen to you anyway? Who are you to talk to anyone else about how to live their lives? You'll just embarrass yourself. And on and on and on. The second voice was much more in my face. It was full of all the reasons not to follow the suggestions that I received from deeper within myself. And yet, periodically, I'd get this feeling, and it's like a little guidance. It would say, write and speak. And sometimes it came with an inner knowing that not only should I do it, but I'd be successful at it. So I wrote a little. I've always wanted to write a book. When I was a little kid, I tried to write a book. It's 5. I wish I still had that. That would be kind of fun to look at. So I came up with some ideas. I started kind of writing ideas about books that I'd like to write. And around that time, I reconnected with a friend of mine that I knew from the vacuum cleaner business. If you remember that from last week, I sold vacuum cleaners for about 8 years, Electrolux vacuum cleaners. And this guy, and I think we connected online somehow, Facebook or whatever, he was making a living as a motivational speaker, going all around the country talking to businesses mostly. He liked the idea I had for a book called Feed Your Angel. He said, that is a really good idea. That is awesome. And he got very excited. He got more excited about it than I was. He's like, you should totally do that, And I'm like, maybe I should do this, because I fed off his energy. And then he also coached speakers and writers. So the books that I'm giving away are from writers that he has coached over the years. Those are people that he works with. I'm not in any of those, but he gave me a bunch of his books just give away at talks and things. So we started working together, and it was back in 2011 that I started working with him on the idea of writing a book called Feed Your Angel. And he helped me get on track. I was doing a blog, and I started writing, originally that book was supposed to be a series of blogs that just got published as a book. I went to a writer's workshop. I did a preview copy of the book, the idea kind of started to take root. I did some speaking engagements too on the Feed Your Angel topic, and during that time I was doing also a lot of speaking engagements for my normal job, which is financial advisor. So I spoke to Rotary. I spoke to a writers group here in Beaver Dam, though, on the Feed Your Angel stuff. I had some speeches that I was giving for Edward Jones that was that went extremely well. Things really started to seem like they were headed in the right direction. And then I got a little cocky, you know. I mean, I got booked to do a talk, I think it was for the Optimist Club. I taped it. I didn't videotape it, but I taped the talk. I like to tape my talks to go back and listen and just nitpick on myself, I guess, you know. So I taped that talk, and I've never been able to listen to it because I didn't prepare. Because I had done 5 talks before that that were just those magic talks where people, you could feel it, and I mean, man, it was awesome. And I got done, you know, and I started to think, that's just how it is. I can just go now, and I can talk, and it's just going to be awesome. And I did a talk, and it was not awesome. It was nawesome. It was like, it was, whew. And despite all the things that were going right and lining up, voice number 2 came into my head with a vengeance. Voice number 2 knows all the reasons why you can't do something. Voice number 2 loves the way things are. Voice number 2 stopped me. Right there. I didn't do any more talks. For years, I never talked on this subject. I stopped blogging. You look at my blog, 2011, 2011, 2011, nothing. Stopped. I eventually wrote an article on the topics from last week in 2014, and it was published in Local Laban magazine. It's basically a synopsis of last week's talk. It was my story, you know, the drug and alcohol story. I got a lot of positive feedback from that. You can read that article. It's on my website, davidgeschke.com. Just look for the Feed Your Angel article from 2014. If you were here last week, you pretty much heard it anyway. But my inner voice never went away. You know, right, you should speak. It got really quiet, though, for a while. It took a back seat. And voice number 2 was in control. Voice number 2 focused and driven and likes routine and likes to be in charge. So I was really obsessed with work. I probably still am obsessed with work. Working every night, working every Saturdays. You know, voice number 2 likes to strive to be number 1. And in 2017, so last year, I saw another friend of mine had left her career in the financial services industry, which is where I met her originally. And she started writing a blog and doing her own life coaching business. You know, people can say, well, life coach, you know wow. It's a huge business these days, but her name is Alicia Wilfert. Her business is called Yoke and Abundance. She pretty much focuses on life coaching for women specifically. But I knew her attitude, which was fantastic, and I knew I had some things that I was struggling with to get a handle on. She knew the financial industry, and I felt that she could help me. So I contacted her and said, would you work with one guy? You know, and she said, you have money? And I said, yep. And so I was in. One of her first recommendations, read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I don't know if anyone's read that book in here, but it's fantastic. Everyone should read it. One of the things Julia Cameron talks about in that book is the idea of doing morning pages. Every morning, wake up and write 3 pages of whatever's on your mind. It's only for you. It's stream of consciousness writing. It doesn't sound like a lot. You know, wake up, write 3 pages, right? Every day. But it's amazing. And some days you'll struggle. Now, I wonder, on the days I'm struggling, how can I struggle? is with stream of consciousness writing. You're just writing what's in your head. You know, your head never shuts off. It's always, so just write that. Write, why am I writing? I'm writing, you know, just to write because I don't know what to write, and I'm writing, you know, that's the whole thing, is just write what's in your head. And some days you'll just blow through 8 pages of stuff. And you just, it's like you're just in the zone. But what you will do is you'll find out how you feel about things. You will learn a lot about who you are and what's important to you. And who are you anyway? I mean, really, have you ever really thought about who you are? The concept of self? Why are you here? Of all the combinations of all the people in all of time, how is it that you came to be? And why are you in this room at this moment listening to me? You're a miracle. We all are. Your mom and dad had to meet. They got pregnant and they had you. I mean, that's really not all that complicated, right? But what are the odds? First, all your ancestors had to line up and have baby after baby with a very specific gene pool to create your mom and dad. Then, out of all the people on earth, your mom and dad had to meet, they had to have sex, and they had to get pregnant, and a very specific sperm had to hit a very specific egg to produce you. The probability of all that happening and producing you is 1 in 10 to the 2,685,000th power. That's 1 in 10 followed by 2,685,000 zeros. To put that into perspective, it's the probability of about 2.5 million people getting together, which is the size of San Diego, and playing a game of dice. Each one of them has a trillion-sided dice. And they roll it, and all come up with the same number. There's no way that could ever happen, right? Yet here you are. You beat incredible odds just to be here. So why you? You must be a strong and powerful being with incredible talents, right? To beat those odds, nothing can stand in your way. So is that how you see yourself? Why not? Who are you? There's an entire chapter regarding this topic in Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul. It's one of my favorite books. It really addresses this question better than anything I've ever read, and I am going to borrow liberally from it for a second here. Who are you? So, you know, if I ask you, who are you? The first thing people say is, well, I'm Sally Smith. Well, are you? Is that who you are? I mean, if you had another name, wouldn't you still be who you are? You're not Sally Smith. That's just your name. Well, I'm Frank Smith's wife. Well, it's not really politically correct, for one thing. But that also can't really be who you are because, you know, you're saying you didn't exist before you married Frank Smith? I mean, and if you married somebody else, wouldn't you still be who you are? Well, all right, I was born Sally Smith in 1965. I went to Emmeline Cook Grade School in Oshkosh and then to Webster, and I graduated high school with honors. No, not looking for your biography. That's what happened to you. Who had these experiences? Who are you? Well, I'm the body occupied. I'm 5'6". I'm 135. That's not me. That's Sally Smith. But weren't you also you when you were 4'6" and in 5th grade? Didn't you once live as a baby? You're not your body. You've had many bodies over time. So what's left? We pretty much established that you are not the objects you look at. If you are the one looking at something, that something is not you. So what's left? Thoughts? Ah, I am my thoughts. Descartes said that. I think, therefore I am. That has to be it, right? But let me ask you this. Does the experiencer of thoughts exist even when the thoughts are not present? What did you think before you had language? I often wonder that. I mean, like, what? I mean, you didn't always know how to talk. What did you think? You were still there, right? Thoughts can stop and they can get extremely noisy. You are not your thoughts. Did you ever have one of those days when your thoughts were driving you crazy? Who is it that is aware of the thoughts and struggles with them? You're not your thoughts, you're simply aware of them. There is a part of you that sits back and watches. Who you are is the one that sees. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and you live in the seat of your consciousness. Behind it all, you are there. I call this part of you the slow mind. It's the part of us that knows only love. When we're in sync, when we feel like we're in the zone or we're very close to God, during prayer or meditation, we are getting to know that part of ourselves. It's this part of us that is the heart when we have head versus heart discussions with ourselves. It's where our intuition comes from. Never have something laid out in front of you that looks great on paper, but just have this feeling, I shouldn't do this. The seat of your soul is your connection to God. And it's where we all reside. We just don't visit that part of us often enough to follow its guidance. I've often said that, to me, conscious contact with God is the most important thing in life. So why don't I do it? I mean, I try to do it. Probably all do. Now, I don't think we have atheists in the room today, but if you are, just stay with me here. Give me some leeway, because I don't know anyone who doesn't believe in God, who therefore approaches life with the goal of being a jerk. I have many friends who don't believe in God or are agnostic. No matter what our religious beliefs are, we still want to know love. Now, for me personally, I think that this is where God lies. And in many ways, God and love are synonymous. So, believer or not, how do we bring more God, more love, and more light into our lives? We have to get in touch with that part of us that knows only love. It's our slow mind. There's another mind, of course, our fast mind. It's the one we can't shut off. Remember voice number 2 from earlier? This is the one that narrates life for us. The one we're referring to when we say, my thoughts are driving me crazy. The fast mind has a tendency to take over because it's always there, it never shuts up, and it bounces from subject to subject and knows all the reasons why we can't do or be or say the things our heart longs for. And it's relentless. Does it shut off even when we sleep? Not really. We just enter a different consciousness. How would you feel if someone outside your own head really started talking to you the way your inner voice does? I like that face. That was exactly how I thought when I first read or heard about this idea. It never shuts up. It bounces from place to place. It's always critical. It has conversations with itself. You ever do that? I mean, how many people are in there? You know, it's like you're looking around, you're like, you're just by yourself. I think maybe we should replace this carpet. You know, it's looking a little raggedy. And then, you know, yeah, but it's kind of expensive, and we just bought a new car, and, you know, the old carpet isn't really that bad. Yeah, but, you know, the stuff that I'd like to buy is on sale right now. And, you know, so you're having this conversation with yourself, right? You get the picture. We have these conversations with ourselves all the time. How many people are in there? I mean, really, what if our thoughts were someone outside of our body, sitting on the couch with us, and that person was having this conversation with himself about the carpet? You know, we'd probably slide over a little bit, right? And be like, maybe find a way to get out of there. You know, this guy's a lunatic. He's having a conversation about carpet with himself. Yet every day we don't search for the love that exists in the seat of our consciousness. Every day we don't actually seek to enhance our relationship with God. We are giving that lunatic on the couch more control over our lives. The fast mind loves routine. The fast mind is quick to anger. The fast mind likes control over all situations, and it's easily rattled. Ever have a day when things are going along just great and something happens? The computer system goes down. That's a favorite. You get a call, your kid had an accident with the car. Someone cancels a big contract you were planning on closing, and it affects the rest of the day. You know, you just can't let it go. It just sticks in there. Frustrating. Thank God that never happens to me. But we all have a choice in how we process things. And if we don't actually work on how we process things that happen to us in life, anger becomes our default setting. How much time do we have? You know, 80 years? Tomorrow's not guaranteed to anyone. So why should we spend it being angry about something we can't control? Easy to say, hard to do. By the way, who's upset? The computer goes down at work. You're all pissed off and frustrated. You lose a project you've been working on for 2 hours. Computer goes off, you know. Is it you that's upset? Or is it the lunatic on the couch next to you? We have a tendency to let that crazy person drive our thoughts and emotions. The fast mind can be focused, driven, and obsessive. It wants what it wants when it wants it, and if it doesn't go that way, it will not be happy. There will be hell to pay, there will be upset. In the short time we have on earth, who would you choose to spend more time with? The lunatic on your couch, or the part of you that knows only love? Which again brings me to the question, why don't we spend more time in prayer and meditation? There's an old Zen saying that says, everyone should spend 20 minutes a day meditating. Unless you're busy, then you need an hour. The more we identify with the stream of thoughts that we can't turn off, the further away we go from our hearts. We need to get in touch with our hearts again. The more you know the seat of your consciousness, the part of you that can never die, the more you will see the effect it can have on your life. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Wouldn't we all like to lead a life of significance? Feel like we made a difference? We left something behind for future generations? We made the world a better place. Will we get there by letting the lunatic on our couch control us? Michael Singer wrote another book called The Surrender Experiment. And in this case, I'm going to read verbatim a section. And he says this. By the way, I'd highly recommend that book as well. So now you got to buy The Artist's Way, Untethered Soul, Surrender Experiment. That's 3. And I'm going to have a test next week. We are not responsible for even the tiniest fraction of what is manifesting around us. Nonetheless, we walk around constantly trying to control and determine what will happen in our lives. Every day, we give precedence to our mind's thoughts over the reality unfolding before us. It is as though we actually believe that the world around us is supposed to manifest in according to our own likes and dislikes. This is an extremely difficult way to live, and it is the reason we feel that we are always struggling with life. The battle between individual will and the reality of life unfolding around us ends up consuming our lives. When we win the battle, we're happy and relaxed. When we don't, we are disturbed and stressed. Since most of us only feel good when things are going our way, we are constantly attempting to control everything in our lives. If the natural unfolding of the process of life can create and take care of the entire universe, is it really reasonable for us to assume that nothing good will happen unless we force it to? There must be another, more sane approach to life. And he goes on to ask this question. Am I better off making up an alternate reality in my mind and then fighting with reality to make it be my way? Or am I better off letting go of what I want and serving the same forces of reality that manage to create the entire perfection of the universe around me? This becomes the basis of what he calls the surrender experiment. The rules of the experiment were very simple. If life brought events in front of me, this is him saying that, I would treat them as if they came to me to take me beyond myself. If my personal self complained, that's mine, voice number 2. I would use each opportunity to simply let him go and surrender to what life was presenting me. What happens from that point on in his story is amazing. I mean, you really need to read that book. And I highly recommend the other one, Untethered Soul, too. But how many of us, if given the opportunity, would accept the chance to live the life of our dreams if it meant uprooting everything we have in place? Our kids had an opportunity recently. Through their church. It's something they wanted to do. They wanted to become construction managers and go and build kingdom halls across the country. Very few people get to do this in their religion. And they got it. And it meant quitting everything, selling everything, and following their hearts. And I watched them do it. They left Sunday. And it's scary. And I just can't even imagine actually doing it. I'm so proud of them. He had a job he had for a long time as an engineer. He made a lot of money. She worked with her mom, wallpaper hanging and painting. And they basically are going to go and be construction managers all around the country and work for the church for as long as it works out. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but they will know. How many of you would, if given the opportunity, would take it? What if the world's greatest songwriters, authors, scientists, businessmen had just settled for making a living? Einstein decided to just work on an assembly line. The Beatles worked in a hotel. Hemingway became a blacksmith. None of them ever followed their hearts. How sad for the rest of us. God had this amazing plan for them, and they didn't take it. You taking yours? One in 10 to the 2,865,000th power chance that you're here at all and you made it. You have an as yet undetermined amount of time left. But we know this, life is a sexually transmitted terminal disease. So it will end. And when it does, will you die with your dreams still in you? Get in touch with the part of you that knows only love. When your fast mind starts racing, remember, this is not you. This is the babbling lunatic on the couch. Do not give him the keys to your asylum. Let your asylum be ruled by love. And surrender to the opportunities you're given as God's plan for you might just be more than you can currently imagine. And that's all I have for tonight. I really appreciate you guys coming, and I hope to see you all next week.